In this video, we are going to talk about 6 unexpected causes of doubts in relationships that say nothing about whether they are the one. I am Pauline and I am so happy you are here because having doubts in your relationship can be quite maddening, but also very lonely because we have this taboo around doubts. You feel like you have to know for sure. You feel like it has to be love at first sight, and when it's not, and you have these doubts that they can't be the one. And that is so not true. That is so not true. So I can't wait to dive into this with you. The first reason is that everything is actually quite good in your relationship, and still you're unhappy. And this has several things in it, and the most important one is that we tend to have the belief, which is not our fault because Hollywood has been trying very hard to install this belief, that when you meet the one, that when you meet the love of your life, that then you are happy, you will always be happy. And that is just not true. It is shown in research that when you have this belief, you actually tend to be less happy in your relationship because you project your unhappiness on your partner. And, you know, this belief causes your partner to be like some magical person that will just take all your pain away. And it's so logical that you want that, especially if you have the fearful avoidant attachment style, where this channel is mostly about. um, you just want somebody to kind of save you, and you hope and you wish that when you meet the one, that then you will always be happy, you won't experience pain or unhappiness. And I wish that were true, but it's not true. We are human, and all humans have periods in which we just feel less happy and less good. And especially if you have had a lot of trauma, have experienced a lot of trauma when you were younger, then it's very logical that you don't always feel happy, and maybe even especially in a relationship, because that can trigger a lot of the trauma. That doesn't mean that your relationship is bad or that your partner is bad, but it can just mean that there are wounds in you that are being triggered. And also, this reason that everything is good and you're still unhappy, um, for a lot of people, and especially for fearful avoidance, that means, or that can come from you being uncomfortable with everything just being good, with having a really stable, loving relationship. That can feel very uncomfortable. So you feel unrest in your body and you think, that's the relationship, and that can cause you to start doubting. So when you have this belief that your partner should make you happy and you're unhappy, that can cause doubts in the sense that you think, well, are they the one then? And then you start looking for almost proof that they are not, or you are wanting to find proof that they are, and then you're just putting such a magnifying glass on every little thing they do or say or don't do. But when you are not comfortable with just stability and love and peace and calm, then that can feel uncomfortable, and that can cause you to start doubting the relationship also. While it's just a sign that you might not have grown up in a stable and calm and happy, peaceful home. And so you just don't know how to deal with that. You don't know how to allow that to just be and be happy in that. You can definitely heal that, by the way. The second reason is that it could very well be that the relationship that you are in now um, is not based on patterns of the past. So this is a follow-up of the last point, that you might have not grown up in a stable, loving, calm home. And when you then have a stable, loving, calm, predictable relationship, that can actually feel so different from what you're used to that it causes some kind of like dissonance in your fear brain. And your fear brain is like, this can't be right. Like, shouldn't there be chaos? Shouldn't there be intense emotions? And so your fear brain is kind of like starting to look for the things that are actually wrong, starting to scan for what possibly potentially could be wrong. And if there's not a lot wrong, or actually nothing wrong in your relationship, then your fear brain can conclude that it's your feelings that are wrong. Like, you don't feel enough. You should love them more. You should feel the love more intensely. Maybe that's what's wrong. Maybe that's why you don't feel super happy in this relationship. Um, so you might have noticed that before this relationship, you had quite a pattern that you just kept falling for the same type of person. And this person might be completely different. The doubts that you then have are actually a good sign, because when those other relationships that were like in the pattern weren't very healthy for you, that means that this relationship actually can be quite healthy for you. It just might mean that your fear brain is just not on board yet, and it doesn't feel safe in your body yet. So there might be some work to do, but it doesn't mean that because you have these doubts that your relationship is wrong. It can actually mean the exact opposite. You just have to be able to um, heal this, and know that love is there for you, and that you are so worthy and so deserving of having love, and having it be stable and calm and loving. Um, so yeah, it could be that it's just so different from what you're used to, so different from your patterns in the past. Then the third reason is that it could be that you are very afraid of intimacy. And a lot of people have this. When somebody is completely committed and open and unconditional towards you, so they are like a super awesome human being, um, there's actually the possibility of intimacy. And for a lot of people, and especially those with a fearful avoidant attachment style, that can just be so scary to let somebody in like that, because it could be that you just have a lot of pain associated with love, and a lot of pain associated with um, intimacy, in the sense that when you were younger, whenever there was connection or intimacy with one of your parents or caregivers, that that was either not possible, or that would lead to fights, or your parent or caregiver wasn't comfortable with that connection. Um, so it could be that there's just a lot of pain associated with that. And then doubting the relationship, doubting your feelings, can actually be a distraction that allows you to keep your partner at a distance, allows you to not let them come too close, because that just doesn't feel safe yet. It allows you to be in your head, not in your body, not enjoy the relationship too much, and definitely keep them at a safe distance, because you feel like, as long as I have these doubts, I don't have to surrender to the relationship. And this might be a little bit subconscious, but um, a fear of intimacy definitely is a cause of doubts in your relationship. And you will notice that if you and when you start to heal that fear of intimacy, that it will become easier to allow your partner in and allow your partner to come close, and that those doubts will just fade away more and more and more, because they actually were there to distract you and to keep your partner at a distance. The fourth reason is the fear of rejection. And this, again, for the fearful avoidant attachment style, is such a big reason, because you are just probably not used to being accepted completely as yourself for who you are. So doubts can actually be a protection mechanism. Think about it. If you are, in a way, completely convinced, your fear brain is, and part of you is completely convinced that you will be rejected and maybe even abandoned at some point, and it's not a question of if, but a question of when, then it would be great if you are not too in love with your partner and you don't think too highly of them. So it protects you by making your partner less desirable, in a lot of ways. I mean, the doubts can focus on their appearance, the doubts can focus on their character, on your compatibility, on all kinds of things, just to not allow yourself to be too happy or to not allow yourself to be too vulnerable, because there's this belief that you will be rejected. Sooner or later, you will be rejected. And sometimes I get the question, but I know my partner is like totally into me, and I know that they are not going to abandon me or leave me. And you might rationally know that. You might just see that and see that your partner is so dependable. But especially as a fearful avoidant, you have this deep belief that there is something fundamentally wrong with you. And I remember with Aryan, after a while, I just realized that Aryan was and still is the most unconditional, loving human being who has accepted me from the absolute start and has been with me through the major ups and downs. And I thought, if he won't be able to be with me, or if he finds something out about me that he doesn't like and he leaves me, then I will be alone forever. If he can't do it, nobody can. And that's a belief and a fear a lot of fearful avoidants actually have. So that fear of rejection might not be very at the forefront because you have such a loving partner, maybe. But if you have that belief that there's something fundamentally wrong with you, and sooner or later they will find that out, it's very logical that your fear brain will find a way, find a mechanism to protect you from the hurt for when that is going to happen. And they do that by making your partner less desirable and making you feel less for your partner. So that's the fourth reason. I'm not saying these are like logical or focused on making you happy, because they are not. The fear brain is not focused on making you happy. The fear brain is focused on protecting you at all costs. So the fifth one is actually quite a different one that has nothing to do even with relationships. It might be that you don't cope well with fear. You might not have learned that when you were younger. So whenever there is fear or a feeling of loss of control, powerlessness, your fear brain will try to find something that it feels they have a little bit of control over. And an example of this can be the whole pandemic that we're in, COVID pandemic, and that is out of our control. We can't control this virus by ourselves. Wouldn't it be great if we could? And we can't control what our governments do with it. And that can cause so much insecurity. And when you've been, especially when you've been raised um, in a way where there was not a lot of stability, and there was a lot of you feeling powerless and feeling alone and feeling scared, then your fear brain started to create a coping mechanism by trying to control things around you and maybe even obsessing about that. So what then happens is that you actually feel this fear and you feel this unrest in your body, and you don't know how to cope with that. You cannot deal with the uncertainty. It is so hard for you to just trust that it will find its way and it will all be okay, because that wasn't safe when you were younger. And so your fear brain goes to trying to control something that you can. And your relationship is something you can control, because you get to decide whether you want to leave or whether you want to stay. So this might sound crazy, because these two things are just completely unlinked. But when I started to see this and to kind of notice it, I saw that when I was feeling anxious about um, like what other people thought of me, for instance, also something I couldn't directly control, then I would start obsessing about my relationship just to have something to have control over. And then your relationship is actually a really good good thing for your fear brain to obsess about, because it feels like such a big choice, you know, like breaking up is a very big choice. So you feel like I have all this tension and all this fear, but when I break up, then it will all be gone right away. And that is almost like a fantasy, like an escapism, um, that you believe that then you will be happy. And it's so logical. If you've never learned to cope with the fear and to process fear and uncertainty, um, it's very logical that it feels so good to know that there's like almost a way out, that there's something you can do, break up with this person, that will make you feel so much better. And in reality, sadly, that doesn't work. You might feel like relieved for a little bit, especially if the doubts have been super obsessive and have been there for a long time, because that's really exhausting. So it might be a relief for a little bit, and then there's still this fear and this tension and this unrest in your body, because you um, haven't looked at the source where it comes from. So that is the fifth reason. Doubt can also be a coping mechanism, the fifth reason. And then the sixth reason is actually a fear of failure. So doubts can also be a way of you seeking perfection. So just imagine that your relationship is actually pretty good. Nothing is majorly wrong. Um, but you have this fear of failure and this need for perfection. And maybe you recognize that in other areas of your life too. And for me, this kind of came out in, well, but what if we break up or we divorce in like 10 or 20 years after we got married, after we had bought a house, after we had a baby, and then I would figure out that he is not the one and I would have to break up? Or what if we get divorced and then I would have known it all this time because I had doubts? And I genuinely thought that I was just trying to figure out if he was the one, but I was just so afraid of failure. I was so afraid of getting divorced and messing up and then it being my fault and therefore me being completely alone with it. And this is also something a lot of people with the fearful avoidant attachment style have, this fear of failure, and also this fear that if it all goes wrong, it's all my fault. And this is because that's definitely the fear brain talking to you, and the fear brain sometimes gets stuck in like a childlike way of thinking. And when we're younger, when we're really young, like between 4 and 8 years old, we really believe that everything is our fault. If our parents get a divorce, it's probably because something we did wrong. If somebody is mean towards us or angry with us, it's definitely something we did wrong, not the fact that our parent just had an awful day and they were just unloading on you. It's definitely something we did wrong. We just don't have that capacity to think, oh, maybe mommy or daddy had a rough day. So you kind of take that when you have had kind of unsafe childhood, you take that into your adult life and into your relationships. So you seek this perfection, and you what you want is just wanting to know 100% certain that you will never get a divorce, that nothing bad will ever happen. And as much as I wish that for you too, it's also not possible. Nobody knows whether they are going to be together forever. And that's kind of like a harsh truth almost, but it can give you so much peace and freedom when you have these maybe even obsessive doubts about your relationship. Even the people that know for sure or say they know for sure, um, don't actually know for sure. They don't have this gift that they can look into the future and know that they are going to be forever, together forever. All they know is that they feel some kind of bond in the moment. Um, but there can be so many things that can happen, um, and that's hard for you, and especially for a fearful avoidant, to grasp that that's actually not completely in your control. However, you do have a lot of influence over it. And the interesting thing is, and I might actually make a whole video on this if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments below, that when you try to control, so you want to know 100% for certain that this will work forever, the things you are doing at that moment, trying to get control, especially like when I think back to what I was doing in or for my relationships, were a relationship with Aryan, were not helping. I was not investing in the relationship. I was angry a lot. I was blaming him a lot for a lot of the things that weren't perfect in our relationship. I wanted him to make me feel happy, make me feel special. And that all doesn't help a relationship, obviously. But I was trying to get control. I wanted to be perfect. And um, and anytime it wasn't perfect, I got angry or annoyed. And I did have influence, but I couldn't see it then. And that meant that I could invest in the relationship. I could create a safe space for love to grow. I could be grateful for the amazing person he was and is. And I didn't do that. So when you notice you are not investing in the relationship and trying to get control, know that you can't get control. It's so hard, but control is not possible, but you do have influence. You can do so much to make sure that this relationship gets the best chance it can get, and that it reaches its potential. But it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Your partner doesn't have to be perfect, and your feelings don't have to be perfect. All right. I knew this was going to be a long video. If you're still here, awesome. Let me know in the comments below if you recognize any of these causes, if they help you. I really genuinely hope they help you, because doubts can be so frustrating, especially because we just don't talk about them that often. If you want to get to the root cause of these doubts and of the things that cause them, that will be in my program that will come out somewhere in the coming months. You can put yourself on the wait list. The link is in the description below, and I will keep you updated on when that program opens, and I will tell you all about it. I really hope this was valuable to you. I really hope this helped you and made you at least feel less alone, because having doubts and not being able to talk to anybody about them because you're afraid you'll be judged, that's just, that's so hard. So I'm here for you. Let me know in the comments, and I would love to see you next time.